Hello. Today is January 30, 2024. It's a SIG Node weekly meeting. Welcome, everybody. Today we have very long agenda. Let's jump right into it. First item on agenda is Paco. Is anybody representing Paco and Evented Flag?
Yeah, I can talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Harshal here. Should I go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Paco is also here. I think
Oh, he's
Paco
here?
and
Oh,
Kat are
sorry.
here.
Yes,
Yeah.
I got offline just for
Sorry,
reload.
Paco.
Hello. Today I will talk about the bug fix about the evented pod lifecycle event generator and for static pod. And this bug now breaks the SIG release master blocking board, and there's a alpha features CI job, and today we will have a release card in plan. And first we want to confirm about if this is a release card blocker, because this is in the master blocking board. But this is a known issue for last minor release, so we don't think this is a release cut blocker, but we need to get confirmed from SIG Node. And another thing is, if this is not a blocker, we may ignore it in the job, in the master board. And however, we should fix it as soon as possible, if as this is a very general general bug we could see in the CI. And this is not ignored, because it graduated to beta, but default false, disabled. And when we revert it from beta to alpha, and this job catches the problem. And we will later talk about if we will add the master alpha and beta features CI to this board. In that board, all alpha and all beta features will be enabled. Yeah, that's the question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to ignore it, and I also agree we need to get it fixed. But I think we were waiting for Clayton to approve it, since he had raised some concerns and he wanted to see some things. So maybe we ignore it for the alpha release, and we try to get it merged as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's okay. So this is not a release blocker, but but I want to confirm is if this is a blocker for the next minor release.
When is that? I think we can try to get it resolved as soon as possible. I think it'll come down to when is the next minor release.
I wouldn't block anything on alpha feature. It's too aggressive. I think we need to take time and do it right. And if Clayton has problems with the way code is written and has some recommendations, we need to carefully refactor it back to what it was and start doing refactoring needed so code is not degrading.
Okay. Thank you.
The next alpha cut, alpha 2, is February 13th. Is it reasonable to have this merged by then?
We'll disable tests. So
just go ahead and disable them and let it rip. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in a test, I would assume that we'll just add a feature gate to not enable it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I agree with you guys, but can you hear me? Okay, but I do treat this is as the next minor release the blocker bug. Since we already know there's the issues and we need to fix as soon as possible, I do currently treat it as the blocker for the next minor release. Okay, I mean, I'm not talking about it right now. What's the cut? But the next manually, I do think about blocker.
Okay.
The
What do you mean
code
by
looks good.
that?
Code looks good. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think other thing is like I know there were some asks for adding some tests, so I think that may still be a blocker. So maybe Harshal and Paco, do we need more input there, or like what the tests look like?
It'll be tricky to get the container in unknown state, but we can do something to make that happen. Right.
Yeah, I think like based on Harshal's comments, it was hard because other things were kicking in when we introduced delays on the runtime side.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm sure we could do that. We need to introduce a pause probably while it's an unknown and wait for a test purpose. We'll talk with Paco to see if we can't figure out a way to do a test for it.
We should also evaluate whether this assumption that containers that stay in created state, should we really restart them or not? They were introduced as a part. This behavior was introduced as a part of one PR a long time ago.
Yeah.
There was not much discussion on that.
Okay.
But if you see the current kubelet code, the some part of kubelet treats the container
I'm familiar
created
with
state
it. You want to
as
set up
waiting.
a call for that?
Sorry.
You want to set up a call for that? We can talk about whether we need that additional .01 counter running on the created for the restart.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree.
we need
There's
to
some
take
stuff
it.
Yeah.
And the problem is exaggerated in evented plague, where a delay can occur while events coming to the kubelet.
Right. It really comes down to, we have an issue, just for everybody else to know, we have an issue in the Cry API where we can have a timeout. And that timeout is we ask to start a container. It's an unknown state. It's not finished yet, but we time out. And the reason it's still an unknown state is because it hasn't finished starting, and Kubernetes doesn't know. Kubelet doesn't know whether or not it needs to go ahead and start over. Why is it not? Why did it time out? We were missing a little bit of code there to understand, okay, maybe we should have a longer timeout or actually bring down that unknown container before we try it again. We really don't know why it timed out, if that makes sense.
And it happens in generic. Yeah, my guess is this should exist in generic plague too, except a generic plague gets away because it's not really waiting for start. So it's like a shortcut there.
Right.
Whereas evented plague is doing the right thing and it's getting punished for it.
Yes. So we can fix this. Let's talk.
Yep. Okay. I'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think I noticed that like one of the original PRs you linked was from Yuju, and Yuju is back. Yuju, if you wanna take a look and if you have some memory of that piece of code. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, Yuji is back. I did a talk. Hope maybe Yuji is not here, but
I'm
actually,
here.
cool. Thank you, Yuji. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was working on something else, but I'll take a look and get back.
Right.
Yeah.
Harshal, can you loop in Yuju into that specific created comment that you were pasting?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
So I believe we have a plan for this one, right? Okay. Thanks, folks, for being with us.
So I don't think we have a plan. So do we disable test failures, and then we wouldn't catch it as a release blocking?
We
or-
temporarily do it to unblock the immediate release and then treat it as a priority to fix it for the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, priority, but not blocking. I
Not
just don't understand how it's not blocking if we disable test.
not blocking current the cut, but we do plan to blocking the minor release. I just want to say that, right? So because we already know there's the problem, we need to treat it as a high priority to fix that problem. Otherwise, people cannot use in this feature. I mean, even for test, why we include this feature, and for testing, you got to fix that problem. Otherwise, nobody won't try. Even.
Yeah, we just need to talk to come up with a way to test it, and then that'll fix it.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for being pedantic, but I I want to make sure we are on the same page what we're doing.
I think we can summarize on the Slack thread and then loop in the folks planning to work on it so they can collaborate.
If you could summarize it in the Slack thread in a public place where I can point at it, yes, I would appreciate that, please.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Kat.
Okay, next topic is dynamic node resize from Anish. Is Anish on call?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, in the last meeting, I saw that. Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah. In the last meeting for Cape planning, I saw that this Cape was no longer active. So I created a draft document to give a shot at this problem. I think, should I share the screen or that?
I can make you co-host. Just give me a sec. Yeah, you can share your screen now.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the motivation for this is we can scale up or scale down the cluster capacity by adding or removing nodes to the cluster, but due to like resource fragmentation, the each node resource may not be utilized efficiently. But in virtualization world, like CPU and memory hot plugging is a very common feature. It allows users to like dynamically add and remove CPU memory resources from the VM without needing a restart. So the goal for this step was to add like first class support for such node in Kubernetes. And once we add the support, like external controllers can leverage this to adjust node resources. So like first part of the proposal is modifying like the node spec to allow like users to configure CPU and memory for that particular node. Under CPU field, we we ask the users to specify like the total capacity, CPU capacity that they want for that node, and also like the cube reserved and system reserved CPU resource. Cube reserved CPU resource is mainly reserved for like Kubernetes daemons, and system reserved is mainly reserved for OS daemons. Similar for memory. Similar changes for the memory field. Yeah, this is like the first part of the proposal. In the second part, I was thinking during the node bootstrap process, when the kubelet registers to the kube API server, it can probably populate the node config field that I proposed above with what it gets based on the value it gets from CAD advisor, C advisor. And when the user wants to modify the node resource, it can update the node config field. And that's when like external admission webhook or and a controller can kick in, where the admission webhook can probably validate the request, whether it's safe to scale up and scale down the node resources. Yeah, and yeah, once the controller does its job, it will wait for like kubelet to reflect those changes in the node status. And on the kubelet side, once it notices the CPU and memory has changed, it should modify the kube result and system result values. Yeah, this is like a quick design. Proposal I was thinking. Yeah, I just wanted to understand if I'm going in like positive, correct direction. Any feedback, any concerns?
There, I think there's more details we need to iterate once you change the node size, right? So, especially on all those internal logic to do the resource management. But I just want to clarify a little bit. When last week we were planning, we said, "Oh, this is no. It's more from the original author." Proposed this one and didn't continue driving this process. But we, at least I personally do care about this project because as the SIG need, and we heard a lot of requests about something similar like this. So we are not to say we are don't do anything. So more is like we need to find the owner to driving this one, and we do identify the reviewer and also approver. I personal as the approver here. So this is why I just want to clarify. But thanks for the high level. I think this is really good start. But we may missing some other controller on the node. How we are going to complete of the design. Yeah.
Any idea like what I should do next? Like, so do you mean yeah, like what steps I should do next? I can probably dig deep into some kubelet logic.
I think Sasha has his hand raised if he has any comments.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, Anish, are you from the same team as Katrik, who originally opened that issue?
Sorry, which issue?
The one which you referenced in the...
This one?
Yes.
No, no.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So it was a discussion on SIG Node Slack about this like this feature and cap and how it's supposed to be done, or like people who raised interest in all of this. Please contact maybe, I don't know, like me, Marcus, or Katrik in the SIG Node. We will add you into the chat, or Francesca, who is also today in a meeting. There is a discussion going on ad hoc about this feature, how to do it, what it will take, and what are the underwater stones. We will add you to the cap draft that we are working on. It's not for this release cycle, but hopefully it will be ready to draft state or like proposed cap state for the next release cycle.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll start a thread in Slack.
Yeah, I think probably needs more details, right? Like how does it not conflict with the scheduler and so on? Like I'll add comments, but probably needs to be more fleshed out.
Mm. Alish, thanks for the interesting on this one, and reach out like the Alexander earlier said, and reach out a group of the people and maybe can help each other, and also include. So okay, I think there's the other people we want to include, right? So on this topic.
Yeah, I'm always interested to see what's going on. So
Okay.
there is a chat.
Mm.
And usually, like in general, like there are many attempts to approach this complex problem, but we need to understand the whole context and then understand which part of this context specific cap addresses, and it's really hard to do ad hoc on a meeting. So yeah, appreciate you coming here.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was in Windows because I only have a laptop window today. Next topic is, if somebody see agenda, please.
Yeah, I think Marcus and
Oh.
Zvonko on this passing down resources to CRI.
Yeah, let's wait. Let's go to the next topic. Let's wait for Zvonko to join if we can.
All right,
So,
Peter.
Next was Peter.
Okay, Peter, image ref and kubelet.
Hey, I just had a question about the well, it's kind of a in part a question, but in part just sort of like I wanted to do a little bit of research on the usage here. So for some context, there's a cryo bug that currently exists where the kubelet is using image ref basically as like the resolved image that cryo ends up pulling, and uses it as an ID in certain places. But the ref itself, it's kind of hard to tell what its exact use is supposed to be because there is an image .image_id field, which could be like a more sort of concrete reference to it. Some context here is some folks were relying on us using image ref as like the requested image, like the digest and the ID pair for just some internal things. And then we changed that because the kubelet is using it as like as a key for checking whether an image is present. And but that broke some of their use cases, and I just want to try to find some sort of resolution. So I wanted to know if anyone here had any sort of broader context about why, like, what the original intent of image ref was, and sort of because it seems to be kind of fulfilling a couple of different needs, and it's possible we may be able to do a little bit of refactoring to be able to satisfy both the kubelet and these like end users that are requiring on where we're relying on this field.
Maybe Manu or TM and Yuji can help me to refresh my memory. I remember in the past, we actually we try to make the image ref as our internal API. It's not a user-facing API, but I remember we even document in some Kubernetes doc long time back. So this proposal is kind of like that we changed that view, or maybe that view already been changed last couple of years. I didn't track that.
It's entirely possible that these end user, like the people that have complained, I believe, are like KubeVirt and then also Quay. Both were using it for different things, but it's totally possible that they were using it inappropriately, and that like they were just using it because that is a field that was being exposed through crycuddle, and like it had worked in the way that they were hoping for, so they just happened to use it. If we want it to be sort of an internal field and to be used exactly for what the kubelet wants it for, that's fine with me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how we'll fix their solutions, but I'm okay with a sort of like, you're not using this as it was originally intended. We need to find a different sort of way for you to get your needs satisfied.
I think I will also have to take a look at like what Containerd is doing here and what originally Docker was doing, and make sure that all the runtimes are roughly in agreement. If there are variances, there will lead to more issues. Maybe Peter, we do a write-up. Maybe Mike, you can help us dig up what's happening on the Containerd side, and then we can come up with some next steps.
Yeah, I can do a little bit more research. That mostly came here looking for a little bit of additional context. So that's helpful. Thank you, Don. And then I can keep poking around and see if we can figure this out.
Thanks, Peter. And of course, we can evolve, right? So a lot of our decision early might not reflect the facts, and then we can evolve. But if we want to make that public, then we also need a document, and then we need to make sure we are not introduce regression or those kind of things. Yeah. But I do remember initially we documented this is internal using, not for end user to using, not to rely on this one. We might change of the semantics back then. So just want to share. Yeah.
Totally. Awesome. Thank you.
This is Yuru. Yeah, I'm not sure I completely got the issue since I haven't, I don't fully remember how we use the image ref, but I just pasted a link for the issue that I filed a long time ago. Basically, even in the CRI, how we use references and image IDs are not ideal due to a lot of historical reasons and how we work with Docker. That issue was filed as a thing that we can look into in the future to improve, but we never actually got to do that. So maybe as a reference, you can see if it's relevant to what you want to know about.
Awesome. This is really helpful. Thank you, Yuju. Cool. That's it for me. Unless anyone else had anything to mention, I will keep researching.
Okay, next topic is by Francesca.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
New setup. Yeah, works. Nice. So, let me start very quickly from the very beginning. A couple cycles ago, we were working to GAing Memory Manager, and during the PRR review, concerns were raised about Memory Manager not being observable as we would like to. And during the long conversation, it was pointed out that it's not just Memory Manager being poorly observable or not observable as we would like, but also CPU Manager and Device Manager and Topology Manager. There are also not as great as they can in this area. So fast forward to today, I'm working to improve that. And one way, and actually, let me clarify. Observability in this context means that the user has very little feedback about how the feature is operating. Meaning that basically, if the pod goes running, the system is meant to have fulfilled its promises. So you don't have like direct feedback. Hey, okay. CPUs were pinned, the device was allocated, and everything, NUMA alignment granted by topology manager was done. So here I am. I'm working on a PR. I filed an issue to track the work, and I'm working on a PR to add some observability in the form of Kubernetes events. And just want to mention that and double checking if this work requires cap or design or anything more than an issue. I think no, but I'm here asking if we need something more, articulated or detailed than the issue and the conversation in the issue and in the PR for this kind of work.
My personal preference, it is just updated previous cap, make that yeah. Here is the what observability enhancement. That's all. This is personal opinion. Yeah, not to start a new cap.
Okay.
Agree. Yeah.
Okay, just word of warning, folks. It will require changes to 3-4 caps, which I'm totally up to, but it will require approval and everything. But I think it's the most logical thing. I agree.
For the caps that already G8, we may not
Yeah.
need to update them. Maybe we can just update the documentation. Yeah, I don't know how much value it will add to update already G8 caps.
That's a good point. Maybe just I don't know. How do you think about Manu about since the already G8?
I'm fine with updating the documentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 I think so. I'm fine. Thank you for the feedback. I will post the proof of concept as soon as I have it, so we can move forward with this week. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Great. I think Zvonko is here, so Marcus and Zvonko, you're up next.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we wanted to just raise awareness and kind of pitch the one KEP that we've been working with this Zvonko for the past few months, and we talked about this very shortly last week at the KEP planning, and I promised to give a bit deeper intro to the KEP. So I have just a few slides to tell what it's about. So if I'm able to share the screen. Yeah, I need to be co-host, I guess, to be able to do that.
Sergey, can you add him? For some reason, I'm not able to.
Made Marcus co-host.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just need to find it. Window. Okay. Does it look good?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, this enhancement proposal to pass down pod container resources in CRI in already at the pod sandbox creation time. So the problem we are trying to tackle is that the resource requirements of applications are not visible to the runtime at sandbox creation, including devices, CDI devices, mounts, and the native and extended resources. And this has issues, especially in the case of VM-based runtimes, and there also the confidential containers. So the hypervisor needs to create the correct PCI topology, for example, when the VM is created, and for that it needs the information of all resources already at that time when the sandbox is created. And for confidential containers, there's a similar case, but for a bit different reasons. So in many cases, the confidential containers want to keep them kind of static, so define whatever is needed at sandbox creation and then not allow any changes or modifications to the, for example, devices or mounts added after that. So need to know kind of everything at the pod sandbox creation. time and then kind of lock the set of well, pass-through devices, for example, and then not allow any changes after that. And the third use case is for customized resource management on the runtime, customized runtimes. Where, for example, all the CPU memory managers from Kubernetes are disabled, but you want to make let's say resource pinning on the runtime side, let's say in a wrap plugin. And the solution we are proposing is to extend the CRI protocol to show all the resources in pod basically at run pod sandbox request. There are also some other CRI messages that would need to be updated. Let's say, for example, the update container. But this is basically what it would look on the, let's say, protobuf level. So there's a pod spec listing some resources and volumes, and then those are translated in the pod sandbox request, and that lists all containers and their kind of resources on the OCI level, and also the Kubernetes resource requests and limits would be exposed as information there. Then I wanted to list just the goals and non-goals of the KEP that we currently list. So kind of the goals would be are to make all the required resources visible to CRI at early stage, and also including the kind of resource requests and limits as information to the CRI runtime. And that then requires some changes in the kubelet, how the resources are prepared or in which order to make for example some of the mounts available a bit earlier than currently. But their non-goals are changing any of the kubelet resource management or changing existing behavior of anything. So the expectation would be that this is information for the runtime that they can use if they know they need it, but existing implementations would not be affected, and kind of current CRI runtimes can or could work exactly as they are currently. So that's basically what I have on the slides for this. I hope we are going, well, we can have a demonstration of a proof of concept implementation. Also, unfortunately, we're not able to do it this way, but Zvonko, anything from you to add or questions from anybody?
I don't have a question, but I just want to ask our security expertise here team, and so I totally see the use cases and why you need that one. But in the past, I remember we discussed this one to some extent at the CI level when we first designed those things. One of the concern it is how we make sure there's no security. The one of the concern is the security concern, right? So you are passing off the host level of the information to pod and also container through that passing down. So there could be potential of the security concern. Yeah, unless we how to guarantee. So this is why I want to ask the team opinion.
So when you say that, I think are you talking, Don, about the difference between passing all of versus mapping to CRI some set of information that's already been vetted, if you will, and agreed upon that this is the map that they should see?
Basically,
go ahead.
Basically, we do, yeah. So basically, we don't expose any kind of new information. So most of the information, let's say mounts and CDI devices, are already passed at the container creation time, but this would be passing the same information already at the Bond sandbox creation time.
But by the rules, the pod spec that's passed into the containers is supposed to be the same, right? Or at least the request is supposed to be the same as the one that's passed to each container. But yeah,
yes,
it could be
exactly.
different. But we do check, and I have to verify, but we do check to make sure that there hasn't been a change, not without an update to the pod spec, to the pod request, right? Alexander, I believe you have your hand up.
Yeah, Marcus already said that. So practically, yes, it's all of the existing information. It's just like the bigger change is the timing when this information is available to the container runtime. So like all these mounts and like resource limits and so on, we are part of a container create request. And in case of like multi-container pods, it's already too late for confidential VMs or well VM-based runtimes in general. So right now, Kata is using the workaround, so it's not creating the pod until the first create container CRI message comes into the like down to the shim. And afterwards, it's like it does prepares the devices, prepares the topology of the VM, and then creates the VM. But if you have a second container which tries to use the device, you have a problem. Like you cannot add the device anymore. So the whole this thing is just like at the time when we are saying like now we are going to have a new pod, we're just providing the whole information. Here's what all the containers is supposed to be. So expect what you will get, create container request with those parameters.
Gotcha.
A bit of duplication of
definitions per container. I got it.
Yeah. So right now, run pod sandbox is like very generic. It just says I'm going to run the sandbox and this is the ID, but it doesn't say how many containers it's going to be, what it's going to be using, or whatever. So it's more like descriptive information. Here's going to be pod. This is a set of containers, and this is what those containers are going to be used. That's it.
Yeah. YouTube has a hand raised.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually reviewed this, I think a few days ago. I understand the use case. I think everyone knows that by now. We were using some annotations, I think, to actually facilitate that use case. And
Yes.
this is to, but I do have a little bit questions about how we are doing it now, because first of all, we are, like you mentioned, a lot of duplicated information everywhere. We see this in pod sandbox, we see this in containers, and beyond that, we also have the problem of we have some interpreted or translated, as the Cap mentioned, requests, resource allocation from Kubernetes. Then we also pass the raw information from the pod spec. So it's kind of unclear which one we actually asked the runtime to do and what the runtime is exactly supposed to do. And I think that duplication not just duplication, it actually caused confusion to some point, because we don't know what's informational and what is actually intent for the runtime to execute.
Yeah.
And also, I think we from the current cap, we don't just pass in the pod sandbox request, we also pass all the information down to individual containers. So really a lot of like information. I'm not sure they are all needed at this point, and whether we want to do that in that way. In a way, we are sending just the pod spec down to the runtime then.
Well, it's not a full pod spec. It's just resources what is going to be used. And yes, it's exactly the same list of resources, which is later on showed up in create container.
Which is pod spec plus extensions.
Yeah,
it's not even really the original pod spec. It's the view that the container runtime needs to see. I like this. We do need more additional information, of course, and it's not just runtime. It's also the image services, not to, you know, we need that kind of thing there too. And later on, we're going to need this on network services too, right? Some of these things. So we need, you're right, Juju, we need to figure out what's, you know, appropriate to pass and what's not. And should it be annotations? Probably not, right? Those are meant to be temporary. So
yeah, those are just workarounds.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
thank you for the review. Sorry, I'm sorry not yet responding to your comments, but I hope tomorrow I'll respond to the comments and push an update to the CAP, also kind of clarifying some of the points. And thank you for really good review, 3 points.
Yeah. One thing. So we already have the accumulation of memory and CPU, and those are passed through as annotation by containerd, which we leverage in Kata. But one of the more important things is like all the VFIO devices that we are pass-throughing. We need to create a PCI topology up front. We need to create a PCI root ports. Otherwise, we cannot. We are currently doing it statically because we are assuming like only 1 or 2 GPUs or VFIO devices are getting into the VM. So at the pod sandbox creation time or the sandbox creation time, we need kind of the info how many CDI devices are going to be used in each of those containers. And one thing I'm currently working on is really how are we passing through this information through containerd or CRI-O in a way that does not affect like the sandbox and the container, as already said before. Because if we have one thing we need to keep in mind, if we have 10 containers, all those mounts or devices could be overlapping. So if we need a way how to pass through this information. If we manipulate the OCI spec and add all those devices or mounts or whatever else, there will be overlap, and we cannot do it for every container. The OCI spec will not give us the expressivity to have all those manipulations expressed in the OCI spec for all containers. So we need a clever way how to pass through this information in the sandbox creation time to the backend runtime, be it Kata or whatever else is back there that receives this information. Okay. And one way, if we receive the CDI devices, we could just create like CDI device annotations, which will not, alter the spec, will not add the mounts, will not add anything that's related to the CDI device. But I'm not sure how we are going to pass through all the mounts of all containers of the complete pod. Let's say we have 10 containers, how we are going to pass through this information to the backend. And mounts could be the very same. We need to distinguish between each containers. So we cannot do it in the OCI spec saying in containerd, the container Linux file where is doing like all the with mounts, with CDI, with all the functions that's updating OCI spec. We cannot do it in the sandbox creation time. So the question is really, how are we pass-throughing this information a clever way without affecting the OCI spec.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is going to be hard on this one, right? I mean, we don't have a pod spec at the OCI layer, so there's no way to, allocate for
Yes.
That's
But
that's
at
a
least,
yeah.
but at least this thing will give the possibility in runtime to create the like in memory structure, which will describing the pod and all the containers and all the resources in advance. So like runtime can be prepared for all of those. And by the way, a small comment you drew about what you said about like processed and unprocessed data. So right now, kubectl injects in the annotation almost like original pod spec. So there are I know some projects which doing like workarounds and relying on this annotation. And well, why to rely on annotations if we can pass the real data?
Yeah, I'm not advocating for annotations. I'm just saying like we should probably take a harder look at what's actually required and try to make it more content when passing those. I feel like the current way in the cap was still like sending way too much. Like if I'm just looking at the API, I honestly don't know what I'm supposed to do with all the information that I have as runtime. And that is my problem.
Well,
Create a VM with all the resources that you need.
Yes. So for each of this information, there is a customer actually down
Exactly.
in the low level.
Yeah, but then we have like different CPU requests, CPU resource limits, CPU shares, CPU things like.
So supposing,
you need to predict the
supposing you
size
have,
of VM.
Yeah, you need to size the VM. If you have 10 containers allocating every one 100 milli of CPU, how much CPU you have? You have one whole CPU. So you need to create a VM with one whole CPU. So you can contain all your 10 100 milli containers with the CPU. That's easy. The same for memory. Imagine you have 10 containers allocating 100 meg of memory. How much memory does the VM need?
So
that's the accumulation of all the resources that you need in the VM. And
Yeah,
you
I
need
think-
all the information. That's easy.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, but maybe if usually if there's specific ones that don't make sense, we should call that out. Like I mean, CPU, memory, all of these are no-brainers, right? We just I think
all the requests are no-brainers.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, how do you know if a mount is not backed by something else that you need to create in the VM? It's not always just a file that you're doing. How do you know that some networking is not a actual VFIO device that you need to create? How do you know that's the decision that the runtime that receives this information can decide? And this information is anyway going to be provided to the runtime. It's not that
Anyway,
we're
yeah.
duplicating stuff here. It's just a summation of all the resources that's going to be anyway sent through the CRI. It's just that the point when this thing is sent, it's a different one.
At least for the initial, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. But yeah, we need to be a little careful about things like passing down security, secrets, things that would only be used by kubelet, not passed down. So it can't be just here's the whole list of all the container spec information. We do need to figure out how to filter that down into something that's useful, without breaking down the restrictions and limits and management that kubelet's doing for dynamic changes to the pod, right? They may not know yet how many containers are going to run in this or what that memory, and there's upgrade type things. Maybe that's not going to be useful for your use case, right? In the VM case, because you've got a size that you have to limit and you have to restart. That's probably okay. We should at least cover the inits, these init cycle issues that we've been running into.
We ran out of time, but yeah. Yeah, this is interesting discussing. I think we discussed this long time back, and we postponed. And thanks, thanks for work around the issue. So yeah, let's just continue this one. But I think we need to follow up on this one. I think the only concern I remember that time is from the security perspective, but I'm totally okay how we tied cleaning up those API to passing necessary fields and bits to the container runtime. Yeah, so we can reopen those discussing. Yeah.
Is it a concern that we are passing through things that shouldn't be there, or?
Yes.
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
But this information, okay. So I'm still confused. This is.
Look, I have idea how to present it next time. Let's chat offline.
Yeah, because this information that we are pass-throughing is anyway going to be available
in the same format. Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, we need to continue on this. Well,
we have to think about those things. Kubernetes passing will not. It is just only for Kata container. Once we are doing this one, Kubernetes won't identify this is Kata container or rather things. This is why we need more consideration, right? For passing to Kata container, I even don't have the security concern. The problem it is this information once is the API, so all will be passing. Unless we are using some other things to say, enforce only Kata container or whatever things, VM-based container runtime, then we're passing those information. Otherwise, we need to do more. I just want to make people, it's not that we try to expose the hardship to here, to this one. It's more like that we need to think about the non-Kata container, non-VM-based container runtime. When we're passing those kind of things, is there any security concern? And we need some answer about that because in the past, we clearly discussed this one. Of course, it's like what kind of the things we need to passing, we need to continue discussing. But there's the big concern risk. People just say we need to understand the security impact here. That's all. Yeah. So I just want to let people know we are not just. I totally understand where you came from, and I do want to passing those information for Kata container because I'm the one support that initially, that effort. But the problem is the concern is the security. So we need to be careful. That's all. Yeah. Let's just continue this discussing and I think right now is the good time to discuss those kind of things, revisit. We just postponed in past. Yeah. Because nobody really working on this one. So now people work on this one, really cares, and let's get this right this time. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining, folks. Talk next time. I know.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.